John Fetterman went on CNN and absolutely nuked the Democrat Party. I find it both ironic and pitiful that the only Democrat with a brain and common sense is the one who had a stroke that evidently freed his mind from the shackles of Trump derangement syndrome. John Fetterman places the blame for the government shutdown squarely at the feet of the Democrat Party. He rails Democrats for using Americans as political pawns and being so soulless they are depriving people of food assistance. And finally rebukes his party's headfirst descent into socialism, saying if that's where the Democrat Party is going, he is not going to be a part of it. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but I want to start by highlighting the Grand Canyon-sized gap in morals and priorities in the Democrat Party. While John Fetterman doesn't want Americans to go without food assistance, Gavin Newsom is saying he is eagerly awaiting Donald Trump's death.
It says he pisses on the grasshoppers to hear them sing. That's Donald Trump. He knows exactly, he's trolling people. At the same time, once that mind is stretched, it doesn't go back to the original form. Tommy Tuberville, a member of the United States Supreme Court, who seemed to have at least partially opened the door to this conversation. Steve Bannon, again, very honest, straightforward about what he hopes to see accomplished with the MAGA movement and with the Donald Trump presidency. So I don't put it past him. Here's the reason I'm not deeply anxious about it. I think his reign will be measured in years, not decades. For one thing, infirmity, time of life. He's getting older, he's slowing down. Physically, he's not the same person. I don't think this. My interactions with him really bear fruit to that claim. And so that's the only saving grace in this context.
The only saving grace, Gavin Newsom says, is that Donald Trump is old and will hopefully die soon. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're the party that encourages and celebrates political violence, if you're the party that wishes death upon a sitting president, if you're the party whose joy and optimism and eagerness comes at the expense of another human being dying, you're not the good guys, and I don't care how you try to spin it. Gavin Newsom is openly admitting the death of other people is politically advantageous to the Democrats' agenda. So it makes sense that they are perfectly willing to deprive tens of millions of American people of food as a political pressure point to get what they want. And they are shamelessly transparent about it. That's why Americans are seeing through the lie that this is somehow a Republican shutdown. And here is John Fetterman on CNN saying as much, placing the blame exclusively on the Democrats.
The White House says this is the fault of Democrats for shutting down the government. Democrats note that the Trump administration is not dipping into the contingency funds for SNAP, and they think that Trump is doing that to pressure Democrats. How do you see it? Who do you blame for this?
Well, I mean, for me, fundamentally, I'm deeply distressing to know that 42 million Americans are going to lose their SNAP benefits. And now that's one of the big reasons why I refuse to shutting our government down. And again, I feel like the Democrats really need to own the shutdown. I mean, we're shutting it down. I know why they claim, because they want to address the tax credits, and I fully support that. I voted for all of their CRs, RCRs, every single time, and I refuse to put 42 million Americans in the kinds of food insecurity. Now, this is all is solved by just reopen our government, and the people are now paid.
What the Democrats are engaged in is an unpeaceful transfer of power, using the American people as collateral damage. They are using a clean continuing resolution to keep the government open as an opportunity to obstruct and cram through their radical woke legislative agenda. They are halting the entire function of the federal government, including but not limited to withholding SNAP benefits from 40 million Americans, to undermine and obstruct the work of the majority party democratically elected by the people. They want the entire contents of the big beautiful bill nullified and returned to the status quo of the United States taxpayer giving free healthcare benefits and transgender surgeries to illegal aliens, despite the American people overwhelmingly voting for the complete opposite of that. That is the definition of resisting a peaceful transfer of power in a democratic republic. public. But John Fetterman seems to be one of the only Democrats who gets this, and now the pressure is starting to mount against them.
Now, as far as I'm aware, every single union that's involved in this is now demanding to us to reopen that. That's the side that I'm in through this. And now the 4 airlines are now saying, we really have to stop this right now. And why do we really want to make flying less safe by forcing this times of situation and making things that much stressed? So it's not something I support of, and I don't want to be involved. And now we can find a way forward. We need to find a way forward. And I do believe we can achieve these kinds of tax credits. And this is something I support, but it's the wrong tactic. It was wrong when the Republicans did it. It's wrong now that we seem to be driving it.
This entire shutdown has revealed to the American people the dangerous arrogance behind the Democrats' perceived moral superiority, that their self-righteousness is compelling them to force tens of millions of Americans to suffer and hundreds of millions more to be inconvenienced. They're such narcissists that they believe they're the only ones who can do the job. They're the only ones with brilliant, good ideas, and not giving them what they want and to not implement their agenda is such a catastrophic cruelty that depriving people of food and not paying federal workers is actually a kindness. This is the compassionate route. This is that world-famous Democrat empathy and compassion they like to brag about. Our worldview is so perfect, so utopian, so altruistic that if people can't get that, we'll just starve them off and kill them as a mercy. And while this strategy may be appealing to the radical blue-haired angry Marxists who hate civilization and would be happy to see it all burned down, the rest of America thinks this makes Democrats look childish and incompetent, and John Fetterman realizes that.
For a Democrat, I can't imagine a more sacred part of who we fight for is people that depend on SNAP to feed themselves. I mean, if for a Democrat, we're not allowed to just open this up, I mean, then our party has bigger problems than I thought we might have already. It's like, that's not controversial. Pay everybody. And you have our workers here borrowed over $350 million to pay their own bills. Like, it's a failure. And like I said, to all of the viewers, I'm apologizing that we can't even get our together and just open up our government.
Schumer said this gets better politically every day for Democrats. What do you say to that?
Yeah, well, ask the hungry people on Saturday. It's like, that's the thing. Americans are not leverage. This is not some game show about who's winning or whatever. It's just like we have to be better than this and just open this up.
It's actually impressive that the Democrats can consistently find new ways to make themselves more unpopular. People already knew Democrats were hypocrites and liars with their "we stand with the working class" rhetoric, but now they see that they actually have contempt and hate for the working class. They say they're doing all this to protect people who might get kicked off their health care, but all they're doing is preventing anybody from having access to their government health care. And I guess their compassionate solution to people maybe losing their health care is to just preemptively starve them to death. Hey, you don't have to worry about increased health care premiums if you're dead. They have no regard for human life, and that is evident by the first clip I played you of Gavin Newsom eagerly hoping Donald Trump keels over. And again, this isn't some partisan MAGA talking point. It's just basic common sense. Why would you screw over 300 million people because you're trying to protect 10 million people from getting kicked off their government health care? Which, if I might add, nowhere in the big beautiful bill does it kick anybody off their health care. It just added work requirements, requiring that if you are able-bodied, you must work, volunteer, or go to school for 20 hours a week to be eligible for free government benefits. The only people who would be kicked off as a result of this change are people who are simply trying to do absolutely nothing, contribute absolutely nothing to society, and force the taxpayer to cover the bill for their entire lifestyle. And that is the view of the Democrat Party, or the Communist Party at this point. They are a bunch of lazy, unproductive people who have no interest in personal responsibility and taking care of their own lives. They don't want to contribute to society in any way, yet they demand and they take. And that's why John Fetterman said if his party is going in the direction of socialism, he is done.
In New York City, polls show that the Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani is in the lead for the mayor's race. You've previously dismissed him as, quote, not even a Democrat, and it is true he's a Democratic socialist. Do you think it would be a mistake for New Yorkers to elect him as mayor? Would you vote for Cuomo if you were a New Yorker, or Sliwa?
No, that's going to be New York's voice. Socialism is not the future of my party. And if that's going to be their future, that's really up to New York City to decide those things. You know, we all know how socialism works out. Ask anybody that's lived under those kinds of systems all across the globe.
This government shutdown is the only evidence you need to understand why socialism does not work. 40 million people are unable to buy food because they rely on the government to provide it for them. And you want the government to also be in charge of the other critical things you need to live? Your healthcare, your housing, your kids' education. Everything that is provided to you by the government can just as easily be taken away. That's why America was a country founded on the ideals of individualism, of liberty, of freedom, where people could provide for themselves, take care of themselves, and their lives and well-being would not be at the whim of governmental bureaucratic incompetence. I think because of the Democrats' extremely petty diversion from the norm, this is only going to be more common. The Democrats have now shown they are perfectly willing to use the American people as leverage in the most soulless and immoral way possible to try and pursue their political gains. Capitalism is a system that allows you to have what you need and also what you want. Socialism is a system that doesn't allow for either. Yet we're seeing the left demand more socialism while simultaneously seeing the left hold people's food hostage as a political ploy. It's not far-fetched to assume by how radical and violent the Democrat Party is that if they return to power, they would selectively cut off welfare benefits for people who are registered Republicans, because these people need to be purged from society. They need to atone for their sins of supporting fascism. And John Fetterman sees the crazy direction his party is going. And while leftists will try to scold John Fetterman for doing what's right instead of engaging in their political war against Americans, they're completely missing the ball and once again out of touch, because the way he feels represents the sentiment of all normal, non-Trump deranged Americans. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Go Dodgers, baby!